The battle for retro handheld dominance rages on, and amidst this chaotic clash emerges a tale of two titans. Today, you retro gods and goddesses will bear witness as the stage is set for blood. That's right, it's time for a retro handheld smackdown. Smackdown. In this corner, we have the latest offering from the famous Retroid, the powerful, the pocketable, the flippin' Retroid Pocket 4 Pro. And in this corner, we have an Amberlick thing that plays games and looks like a boomerang. The big, the curvy, the RGB infused RG556. Today, we're putting these two juggernauts against each other head to head in a battle to the death. Only one will come out on top. Will it be this one or will it be this one? Seriously, I'm asking you, which one? What? You don't know? Damn it. I was hoping you do. Alright, fine. Well, let's do the Smackdown thing. Smackdown!
Smack them down. Yeah.
Hey there, how you doing? I'm TechDweeb, welcome. Thanks for clicking on the video today. In the realm of retro handhelds, there are all sorts of devices at different price points, different ways to game, but one tier of device that gets talked about a lot for good reason is what is the best device that runs the most stuff but doesn't cost a lot of money tier. People want to know what is the best thing that is powerful enough that you're not compromising too much, but also cheap enough that you don't need to sell one of your cat's kidneys to be able to afford it. Meow. Quiet you. Today we're comparing two handhelds. Both are higher end Android devices, both are around the same price, and both cater to the crowd that wants to play most stuff, all the way up to like GameCube and PS2. And if you're in that crowd, then listen up, because this video is going to answer this once and for all. What is the best device that runs most stuff that doesn't cost a lot of money? That title's a bit too long. Oh, there we go. That's better. We're going to be comparing these devices in several important categories. We got the unboxing, the build, the ergonomics, the controls, the screen, the sound, the system, the performance, the value, and TechDweebyness. Also, if you don't see a category listed that you wanted to know about, well, who cares? It's my video, not yours. And I probably covered that in my review videos for both of these things, so check those out when you're done here if you have further questions. Also, I need to mention that we're specifically talking about the Retroid Pocket 4 Pro. There is a non-pro version of the RP4 with the same build and components but with less power and performance, but also a lower price tag. So take that into consideration, that there's another tier below these that you can consider. Also, I need to mention that these devices were both kindly provided to me by Lit NXT, just so I could make this video for you guys. They send me lots of stuff and they have good prices with free worldwide shipping. So go buy this or this from them if you want either of these, or both, I guess. So without further lollygagging, as my mom would say, let's move on to the bloodbath, shall we? Starting with the unboxing, neither of these is particularly interesting. The Retroid has an interesting box with a nice subtle pattern on it. It has this drawer style opening and we get a screen protector, the device, and then a slightly nicer branded USB-C cable, and a word paper, of course. The 556 has a simple standard box with the device protected in plastic, and there's a screen protector and a word paper, and another little box with a boring standard USB-C cable. Whatever, they come in a box. I don't even know why I'm doing this category. This is a tie, who cares? The build quality is actually a very important topic because this affects more than just how it looks. It affects how it feels. And having a device that feels like a high quality device is going to leave you feeling good. The RP4 Pro feels like a really well thought out product. The feel of the plastic is lovely. Lovely. There's a very slight texture to it that feels great under your fingers, and the fine details look really sharp. The crispness of the buttons with their functions molded into the actual plastic, all the seams and accent features around the shell look intentional, and the stylish ventilation grill and debossed logo around back. Even the D-pad looks nice. The 556 is a good device in terms of build quality, but honestly, it's not as nice as the RP4 Pro. First off, it's ugly. Maybe you don't agree, but I think the shape and the general vibe of this thing makes it feel like a cheap toy. The plastic feels a lot cheaper, it's super smooth and ends up being a fingerprint magnet, no subtle textures on the buttons and the triggers. The D-pad is super cheap looking. The seams don't feel as tight and the debossing on the buttons doesn't look as crisp. I'm nitpicking, it's not terrible, but the RP4 Pro is going to take the win here. I don't love everything about the RP4 Pro, and I don't hate the 556, but Retroid makes quality stuff, and Amberlick has some catching up to do. Next up, we have the Ergonomics, which is how well the handheld scientists made the device to fit into your human hands, and how comfortable it is. The RP4 Pro is okay. It's big enough, and the rounded shape of the thing doesn't jab into your hands in any way. By design, it's meant to be a bit more pocket-friendly, although I personally wouldn't be carrying this around for any extended period of time. So because of that, it's a bit more cramped by necessity. The spacing of the buttons is good, although I find that if I'm using the thumbsticks more often, it doesn't feel as natural. I'm a stick-on-top kind of guy, but I know not everyone is, so I'm not going to hold that against them. But it's not super comfortable to use this stick a lot like this. The flared triggers are a good shape to rest your fingers up there. It's not bad, about average to be honest. But the RG556 really shines in this regard because these grippy humps on the side may look cheesy, but they're actually super comfortable. This thing just slides right into your palms, and the shape of the humps around back give your hands something to squeeze, and it feels super natural and comfortable. And when you're holding it, all of the controls are perfectly placed so that you can reach them easily with your thumbs and fingers. This is one of my most comfortable devices that I own, and I gotta give the win to the 556 because of that. I love having this thing in my hands. Next up, we have the controls. Which one of these has the better buttons, D-pad, and sticks is the question, and the answer is the Retroid Pocket 4 Pro. Sorry to jump right into it, but it's the truth. First, the RP4 Pro's buttons and sticks feel better under my thumbs. I prefer the size and the shape of the buttons on the 556, but the 4 Pro's buttons have a more satisfying click to them, and the 556's buttons feel a bit stiff. The triggers are great on both devices, but I gotta give it to the RP4 Pro here. They just feel better and they're more accurate. The D-pad is better on the RP4 Pro, although it has a dome switch feel, and I know some people prefer membrane like on the 556, but I personally prefer the Retroid. And the sticks are miles ahead on the RP4 Pro. I absolutely love the sticks on this thing. Retroid has been killing it with their sticks. They have a great shape, great range of movement, and the accuracy makes them feel closer to a full-sized, high-quality controller. By contrast, the sticks on the RG556 are actually on the lower side of the quality scale. They feel stiff, the thumb caps feel cheap, there's hitches in the movement, and the accuracy is terrible. Don't get me wrong, the controls on the 556 are fine, especially for retro games, but they're not great the way they are on the RP4 Pro. And for the screen, this is a big topic for these things. In my RP4 Pro video review, I was pretty down on the screen. It's a 4.7-inch 750p LCD screen, which isn't bad, but there was some ghosting issues and some pink fringing around the text. However, I'm happy to report that these issues apparently are fixed. In the recent OTA updates, there was some stuff to address the screen ghosting and the color balance, and I was skeptical, but I gotta admit, it's way better now. However, the screen on the RG556 isn't just good, isn't just better than the RP4 Pro. It's dang near the best screen on any of my retro handhelds, and I have quite a few of them, as you might have noticed. It's a 5.5-inch AMOLED screen, full 1080p, and super crisp with pure dark blacks and bright saturated colors. It's only a little bit bigger than the RP4 Pro, but it feels enormous in comparison. If you value the way your games look to your eyeballs when you're holding a device, there's no question in my mind. The 556 is nothing short of the best Android handheld screen that you can get. Our next category is subscribe to... Oh, wait a second. That's not a real category. Did someone put that in there just to remind you to subscribe to TechDweeb? That's a dirty trick. Sorry about this. I'll get to the bottom of whoever played this prank on us and I'll make them pay. I can promise you that. Testing sound is kind of a subjective thing. I'll say that both of these devices make the mistake of having downward firing speakers, but on the RP4 Pro, they're more towards the back of the device, so it suffers a bit because of that. And in general, the sound quality is pretty similar, but I'm going to give the win to the RG556. I can hear more detail in the sound across the range. It feels a bit more bassy and a little bit louder and also clearer at higher volumes. The RP4 Pro sounds good, but the 556 sounds a little bit better. Both of these devices are Android based, so ultimately they have about the same user experience and functionality. You can install your own apps and front ends, both have access to the Play Store, but both devices also have their own proprietary front ends and a few special features. The RP4 Pro has the Retroid launcher, which is intended to make it easy to add games and launch your games. It's pretty good, it works okay, but it's not all that interesting or customizable. Likewise, the RG556 has Amberlick's launcher thing, which isn't as good as the Retroid launcher. It's a little bit more janky. However, one important thing to note is that the RG556 can come with an SD card loaded with games, which isn't an option for the RP4 Pro. So if you're the kind of dweeb who wants games included, the 556 can give you that. Both devices have a built-in screen mapper to allow you to map the physical controls to on-screen touch functions, and that works wonderfully on the RP4 Pro. The 556's screen mapping software is serviceable, it works, but it's not as good as the one on the RP4 Pro. It's a bit more basic, and both devices have controls to change the performance profile and the fan. Overall, I think the RP4 Pro gets the win here, but both are good, useful systems, but the extra stuff that you get on the RP4 Pro is better than the extra stuff that you get on the 556. When it comes to performance, there's really no comparison. The RP4 Pro wins. Sorry to cut right to the chase, but I don't think anyone is surprised by this. Whether you're talking about synthetic benchmarks or gaming performance, the RP4 Pro is about 20 to 30% faster on average. For Android games with settings that can be tweaked, you can run at higher settings on the RP4 Pro. There will be some retro games that run well on the RP4 Pro that don't run well on the 556. Some games you can upscale on the RP4 Pro that you can't upscale on the 556 and maintain full speed. It's not a contest when you compare them side by side. However, I should mention that even though the RP4 Pro is more powerful, it's not so much more powerful that it unlocks a whole new tier of emulation. These things can play basically the same stuff, more or less. Maybe the RP4 Pro can play some more of the hardest to emulate GameCube or PS2 games or whatever, but that's just a small handful of games. If you want the best performance, the RP4 Pro is a king at this price point, but the RG556 is no slouch. You can still do a ton of stuff with it, even if it's not as powerful. I'm giving the win to the RP4 Pro though, because, you know, it wins. And finally, we gotta talk about the value. The RP4 Pro is about 10 to 15% more expensive than the RG556, depending on where you get it, if you get a games card included, and what deals and sales are available. That's a significant difference, but there is also a performance difference. The RP4 Pro is on average about 30% more performant. If you consider the value of the device to be based on the performance compared to the price, the RP4 Pro will come out on top. I personally don't put as much stock into raw horsepower. I think there's a lot more to a device than just the numbers that it can pull, but this category is about what you can do for the price. And I think both are a great value for the price, but it's hard to argue with the numbers, so the RP4 Pro has to take the win here. I've given myself my own category because, well, it's my video and I'll do what I want. I want the Retroid to be the one for me, but the RG556 beats it in several important ways. When it comes to actually enjoying the games while you're playing, I would be way more likely to notice a beautiful screen and comfortable ergonomics rather than being able to play extra GameCube games or whatever. I love them both, but at the end of the day, I go to bed because it's the end of the day and it's nighttime and I'm sleepy. And when I go to bed, I grab my RG556 to play games on more often than I grab my RP4 Pro. So where does that leave us? Which of these two juggernauts of a device is going to take the golden root beer trophy of retro handheld awesomeness? Well, the test doesn't lie. It's going to be the RP4 Pro. It's got more wins than the 556. Congratulations to the RP4 Pro. You win. Yay! And sorry, RG556, you lose. Boo! However, so much of this is subjective, and maybe some categories are more important to you than others. Maybe having a great screen isn't as important as the price, or maybe having perfect controls isn't as important as the performance. So if you go through and figure out what's important to you, you might find that you come to a different conclusion. I'm not here to tell you which is better. Actually, I am. That's what this YouTube video is about. I don't know why I said that. I guess I mean that I'm not here to tell you which you'd prefer. Because even though I know the RP4 Pro is better, for what's important for me, the 556 comes out ahead, but it might be different for you. So you gotta pick for yourself. And when you do pick one, make sure you buy it from LidNXT, linked in the description below. So now it's your turn. Let me know which of these you like better in the comments below. And while you're down there, you might as well click the thumbs up button. It costs you nothing and it makes me feel good, so it's obviously worth doing. Make sure you check out my reviews for the RP4 Pro and the RG556, link below. And that's it from me. I'm TechDweeb. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.